Are you looking to practice your English speaking so you can become more fluent and confident? In this video, we're going to do some fun and interactive conversation practice. This is the perfect opportunity to speak out loud and build your confidence in speaking English. The conversation we'll be having is based on advanced English phrases and vocabulary. But even if you're not at an advanced level, you're welcome to join me and have a go because I'm sure you'll still get lots out of this useful session. Here is how the class will work. First, I'll give you a conversation question or prompt and ask you to pause the video and speak out loud, giving your answer as naturally as you can, as if you were really having a conversation with me. Next, I will give my answer to the same question. I will then highlight some useful phrases that I used in my response. And finally, you'll give your response again, but this time you'll try to make it even better using my suggested phrases. Are you ready? Let's go! If you could instantly master any skill, what would it be and why? Pause the video and give your answer. Great! Now listen to me answer the same question. If I had to choose just one new skill, it would be learning languages effortlessly. Language opens doors to new cultures, perspectives, and opportunities. So mastering this skill would allow me to communicate with people from all over the world and also deepen my understanding of different ways of thinking. I've always admired people who can switch between different languages seamlessly. It seems like such an incredible ability. I think in today's world, this skill is invaluable because globalization means we're constantly interacting with different cultures, whether in business or daily life. So now let me talk about some of the phrases I used and how you can use them to make your answer even better. If I had to choose just one skill, it would be... Now here we're using the second conditional. We're talking about a hypothetical or unreal situation. If I had to choose, so using if plus the past simple, if I had to choose just one skill, it would be, so we're using the hypothetical would, it would be, and then you can introduce the skill that you would learn. Mastering this skill would allow me to... Again, we're talking hypothetically here. It would allow me to, for example, it would allow me to travel. It would allow me to get a better job. It would allow me to speak with people from different countries. I've always admired people who can. So here I linked my desire to learn languages to my admiration for people who can do that. I've always admired people who can switch between languages. In today's world, this skill is invaluable because invaluable meaning really, really useful, really valuable, you almost can't put a price on it. So now pause the video, have another go at answering that same question, but this time try using some of these phrases. Great, well done. I hope you were able to improve your answer. Let's move on to prompt number 2. To what extent do you think technology is improving or harming human interaction? Pause the video and give your response. Great, now I will answer the same question. Well, on one hand, technology has made it easier to stay in touch with people no matter where they are in the world. Video calls, instant messaging, social media, they've all helped us to stay in touch with people and maintain relationships, even across vast distances. That being said, it has led to a decline in face-to-face communication. Many people prefer texting over meeting in person, which can feel a little bit impersonal. I would argue that the impact depends on how technology is used. If it enhances communication rather than replacing real interactions, it's beneficial. However, from my perspective, I think the challenge is balancing convenience with meaningful connections. Here are some useful phrases I used in my answer. On one hand, technology has made it easier to. If we say on one hand, we are introducing one side of our idea, one opinion. Technology has made it easier to... and we'll use the infinitive. That being said, it's also led to, if we say that being said, we are introducing a conflicting opinion, an alternative or contrasting idea. That being said, it has also led to, and then we say what our alternative or contrasting idea is. I would argue that the impact depends on. If you say I would argue, you are introducing your opinion, and then it depends on, and then you can say what you think really drives the impact of technology. From my perspective, the biggest challenge is saying from my perspective is just a fancy way of saying I think, or in my opinion. From my perspective. All right, now have another go, answer the same question, and this time use some of these phrases. Great work! If you're enjoying this video and you're finding this speaking practice useful, please take a second to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more English language learning content just like this. Thank you so much for your support. Now let's continue with our third prompt. What role does failure play in success? Pause the video and give me your answer. Well done. Now it's time for my answer. Failure is often a stepping stone to success. Many of the greatest innovators, from Thomas Edison to Marie Curie, faced repeated failures before achieving breakthroughs. Without making mistakes, we wouldn't truly learn or grow. Mistakes teach us resilience, adaptability, and how to refine our approach. In fact, many successful people attribute their achievements to their failures rather than their successes. They see setbacks as valuable lessons rather than obstacles. I think the key is to learn from failure rather than to fear it. If we embrace failure as part of the process, we're more likely to keep pushing forward rather than giving up. Okay, let's look at some phrases I used. I said failure is often a stepping stone to success. If something is a stepping stone, it's an important part of the journey that gets you to where you need to be. Without making mistakes, we wouldn't. So here we're going to use the simple form of the verb after wouldn't. We wouldn't learn, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't become successful. Many successful people attribute their achievements to. If you attribute your achievements to something, you're saying it's because of that thing. It's because of their failures that they achieved things. The key is to learn from failure rather than... So I said to learn from failure rather than fear it. But you could insert your own idea here. Have another go and give me your response. Excellent work. Now moving on to prompt number 4. How do cultural differences influence the way people communicate? Pause and answer. Well done. Now it's time for my answer. I think different cultures have very distinct ways of expressing politeness, respect, and disagreement. For example, in some cultures, direct communication is valued, whereas in others, indirect speech is preferred to avoid confrontation. In some cultures, it's common to interrupt as a sign of engagement, while in others, interrupting is considered rude. This can lead to misunderstandings between people from different backgrounds. One major difference I've noticed is body language. A simple gesture like a thumbs up might be positive in one country but considered rude in another. I think misunderstandings can arise when we assume that everyone communicates in the same way that we do. That's why cultural awareness is essential when interacting with people from different backgrounds. Right, now let's look at some phrases. Different cultures have distinct ways of, here you're going to use the ing form of the word, have distinct ways of communicating, of speaking, of doing things. In some cultures, it's common to, whereas in others, here we're introducing two contrasting ideas. In some, it's common to do this, whereas in others, it's common to do this. One major difference I've noticed is, so here you're giving your own personal observation, what you think about this. Misunderstandings can arise when arise here means happen. So it just means that people can misunderstand when, and I think in my answer I said when everyone assumes that we all communicate in the same way. What about you? What do you think? What can cause misunderstandings to arise? Have another go at answering the question. Well done. Now moving on to prompt number 5. If you could change one thing about the education system, what would it be? Have a go at answering the question. Now it's my turn to answer. One major reform I'd introduce is a greater emphasis on critical thinking and creativity rather than on rote memorization. Too often, students are taught to memorize facts and information rather than to develop problem solving skills. The current system tends to prioritize standardized testing, whereas I believe education should focus more on practical life skills. Things like financial literacy, emotional intelligence, and adaptability are just as important as academic knowledge. A more effective approach might be to personalize education so that students can learn at their own pace. Not everyone thrives in a rigid, one-size-fits-all system. I think students would benefit greatly from a curriculum that prepares them for real-world challenges rather than just exams. After all, success in life isn't just measured by test scores, but by how well we can navigate complex situations. Alright, now let's look at some phrases I used. One major reform I'd introduce is, we're using the conditional here I'd, because we're talking about a hypothetical situation. So what's one major reform you'd introduce? The current system tends to prioritize, whereas I believe, here you can make it specific for your country. What does the current system prioritize, and what do you believe is more important? A more effective approach might be to, so here we're using the infinitive. In my answer, I said to personalize education. But what do you think? Students would benefit greatly from, so again, we're talking hypothetical here. They would benefit greatly from, how would you finish that sentence? Have another go at answering the question using these phrases. Well done! You just did some really valuable speaking practice using advanced speaking prompts. I hope that you found it useful. Now, if you have to use English every day at work, but you'd like to feel more confident, I've got 100 phrases to use in meetings that you might like to check out in this video right here.